Earl Johnson stepped out of a small grocery store, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the quiet street. In one hand, he held a bag of fresh produce. In the other, his wallet, his fingers wrapping tightly around it. At 77 years old, Earl carried himself with the quiet dignity of a man who had worked hard all his life. His neatly pressed clothes and polished shoes were a testament to the values he had upheld since childhood. As he approached his old sedan parked by the curb, he sighed. The car had seen better days, and so had he. But it still ran, just like he did, steady, reliable, and not yet ready to stop. Just as he reached for the door handle, a police cruiser pulled up beside him. The flashing lights weren't on, but the intimidation was clear. Two officers stepped out. Officer Daniels, tall, burly, with an air of arrogance. Officer Miller, lean, indifferent, smirking at some unspoken joke. Earl's grip on his wallet tightened. He had a bad feeling. "Sir," Daniels said, his voice laced with false politeness, "we've had reports of a suspicious individual in the area." Earl frowned. "Suspicious?" Daniels eyed him up and down, gaze stopping on the wallet in his hands. "Yeah, suspicious." Earl stood his ground, refusing to let them intimidate him. "I just bought groceries," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I've lived in this neighborhood for over 30 years. Daniels ignored him. Instead, he turned to Miller and smirked. "Looks like he might be carrying something illegal. Let's check him out." Before Earl could react, Daniels lunged and snatched the wallet from his hand. Earl froze. The audacity, the violation. His heartbeat quickened, but his expression didn't change. He had dealt with men like this before, men who thought a uniform gave them the right to trample on dignity. Daniels flipped the wallet open and whistled. "Whoa," he mocked. "Carrying this much cash, huh?" Inside was $500, money Earl had withdrawn earlier that day to pay for house repairs. Miller leaned in, eyes narrowing. "That's a little unusual for someone like you." Earl inhaled sharply. "Someone like me?" Miller shrugged. "You know, older, no job. Carrying this much cash. Just seems suspicious." Earl's jaw clenched. "That's my money. Give it back." Daniel smirked, tucking the wallet into his belt. "We'll have to run some checks first. You might be involved in something illegal." Earl stared them down, his wrinkled hands balled into fists. Then he made his move. Earl reached into his pocket, slow and deliberate. Miller tensed, hand moving toward his holster. But Earl didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out his phone. "All right," he said, dialing a number. "Let's see what my son has to say about this." Daniels and Miller exchanged amused glances. "Oh, calling backup." Daniels mocked. "What's he gonna do, file a complaint?" Earl held the phone to his ear. After 2 rings, a deep, commanding voice answered. "Hey, Dad." Earl kept his eyes locked on Daniels. "I need you to come down here. 2 officers just stole my money." There was a brief silence on the other end. Then the voice responded low, controlled, and deadly serious. "Where are you?" Earl gave the location. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." Daniels chuckled, still pretending to be unfazed. "Oh, we're in trouble now, huh?" But Miller glanced at the phone screen. Something about Earl's calm confidence made him uneasy. "Yo," Miller whispered. "Who's he calling?" Daniels waved him off. "Who cares? What's some old man gonna do?" Then they heard it. A deep rumbling sound in the distance. A black SUV with tinted windows turned the corner, moving fast. Earl folded his arms. "Looks like your time just ran out." The black SUV came to a sharp stop, right behind the police cruiser. The engine idled low and powerful, the kind of sound that demanded respect. The doors opened. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a perfectly tailored black suit stepped out. His polished shoes hit the pavement with authority. He carried himself with a mix of power and restraint, but his eyes, dark, focused, and unwavering, were filled with fury. A badge gleamed on his belt. Daniels and Miller froze. The man walked toward them, his presence swallowing the space between them. Earl smiled slightly and gestured toward him. "Officers," he said, voice steady. "Meet Chief Marcus Johnson." Daniels visibly stiffened. "Chief," Miller whispered, his mouth going dry. Daniels swallowed, trying to regain his composure. "Sir, we were just—" Marcus cut him off. "Would you like to explain?" he said slowly, each word deliberate. "Why you just robbed my father?" Daniels stammered, his previous arrogance slipping fast. "Sir, we were just conducting a routine check." He matched the description of. Marcus stepped closer, his towering presence casting a shadow over Daniels. "A routine check." His voice was calm, but cold. "You stole an elderly man's wallet. You accused him of carrying his own money illegally, and then you refused to return it." Miller tried to interject. "We didn't know he was your father." Marcus turned his gaze to Miller, eyes sharp. "So, if he wasn't my father, you would have gotten away with this?" Miller's throat tightened. Earl watched, arms crossed, as his son dismantled the officer's confidence piece by piece. "You saw a black man with money," Marcus continued, "and you assumed he stole it. Isn't that right?" Daniels looked away. Miller couldn't speak. Marcus didn't need an answer. He already knew the truth. "Give him back his wallet," he ordered. Daniels' hands shook as he pulled the wallet from his belt and held it out. Earl didn't move. "Say it," Earl said. Daniels looked up, confused. "Say what?" Earl stared him down. "Say, I was wrong. Here's your money back." Daniels' jaw clenched, his pride burning. But he knew. He had no choice. "I was wrong," Daniels muttered. "Here's your money back." Earl took it, slipping it back into his pocket. Then he smiled. "That's a start." Marcus wasn't finished. "Both of you," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "Report to my office first thing tomorrow." Daniels tensed. "Sir, please, we didn't." Marcus raised a hand, silencing him. "You don't get to argue. You don't get to negotiate." He took a step closer. "You stole from a law-abiding citizen. You abused your authority. And worst of all," his voice dropped lower, dangerously controlled, "you thought you could get away with it." Daniels and Miller stood frozen, their futures unraveling before them. "Effective immediately," Marcus said, his words final. "You are both suspended pending investigation." Miller's face turned pale. Daniels' fists clenched, but he didn't dare protest. Marcus turned to his father. "You okay, Dad?" Earl smiled. "I am now." Marcus exhaled and nodded toward the SUV. "Let's go home." As they walked away, Daniels and Miller remained rooted in place, their careers crumbling before their eyes. They had messed with the wrong man. And now, they were going to pay for it. The drive home was quiet for a while. Earl gazed out the window, watching the city pass by. "You didn't have to come all the way down here," he finally said. Marcus glanced at him. "Yes, I did." Earl chuckled. "I could have handled it." Marcus smirked. "I know." A beat of silence. Then Earl spoke, his voice softer. "I'm proud of you, son." Marcus's grip on the steering wheel tightened. That meant everything. The next morning, the precinct was buzzing. Word spread fast. 2 officers, Daniels and Miller, had been suspended for racial profiling and theft. And the man they tried to rob? The chief's father. Officers whispered in break rooms. Some laughed at Daniels' arrogance, catching up with him. Others, especially those who had gotten away with similar routine checks, felt a cold pit of fear. Marcus had made it very clear. This kind of corruption would no longer be tolerated. Daniels sat in Marcus's office, sweating. Across from him, Marcus flipped through a report. "You've had 5 complaints of racial profiling in the last 6 months," Marcus said, without looking up. Daniels swallowed hard. "You've bullied civilians, stolen property under the guise of searches. And now," Marcus finally met his eyes, "you robbed the wrong man." Daniels' mouth was dry. "Ah, save it." Marcus cut him off. Miller sat beside him, silent, terrified. "Your days of abusing your badge," Marcus said, "are over." By the end of the week, an official internal investigation was launched. Daniels and Miller weren't just suspended. They were fired. When the news broke, community members celebrated. For once, a corrupt cop didn't walk away unscathed. For once, justice was served. Earl returned to his grocery store a few days later. People stopped him outside. "Mr. Johnson," a young man said, We heard what happened. That was incredible. Earl smiled. I didn't do much. Just stood my ground. You showed us something, another man said. You showed us that we don't have to stay silent. Earl nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest. Change had begun. That night, Earl sat on his porch, looking up at the stars. Marcus sat beside him. You did good, son, Earl said. Marcus smiled. You raised me right, Dad. The two men sat in silence, knowing that this was more than just one victory. It was the start of something bigger, because when injustice rises, the right people will always stand up, and sometimes those who think they can get away with it mess with the wrong man.